Hello everyone and welcome to the garage. In the last video I managed to spin the motor in a sine mode. Next step would be to drive the motor in field oriented control. We will need to add two more components to our setup, resolver and a throttle pedal. And now let's get on with it. Well, I suspect that's where the resolver is connected. As I don't have an original Toyota connector, I'm planning to just put wires like this. Right, so I have these two strands of wires, but one of the dilemmas that I'm facing is actually a resolver supposed to have 6 wires, and this one has 2 extra wires, and I'm not really sure what they are for. So I've decided to try testing resistance of these wires. So I'm checking my DVM, well, it's working well, and let's start from those two. Right, that's 13 ohms. It's brilliant. If I think this is what it is, 13 ohms might be an exciter for the resolver, and that's 21.6 ohm. It's even better news. So if this one is similar, then it's definitely a resolver. Bingo. So that's also 20.2, and this one is 21.7. I think they're almost the same, where the first pair is clearly less. It's 13 ohms, so that's clearly an exciter. And these two other pairs, and that would be part of the resolver, sine and cosine. We'll still need to determine which one is which. But what about the last two? Well, last two clearly have much higher resistance. It's 56 kilo ohms. So that could be something completely different. So I wonder whether this could be a temperature sensor.
So here's the junction block. We've got a pass-through connector for the MG1 resolver and the MG1 temperature sensor.
Let's keep those two apart, but those 3 on one side and those 3 on the other side are actually resolver wires. So the first step is done. So the next step would be to wire them up and get them ready to connect to the Ampseal connector. I will need to connect resolver to the Ampseal connector that I already have. So naturally I started from preparing a wire harness so I can wire up the resolver. All I need to do is cut some wires to length and crimp the connectors that will go in Ampseal. To start crimping, first I will need to straighten the edges of the crimp so they go better into the die. And first I want to use 1.5mm die just to do the first crimp. I put the terminal in the jaws and just do one click of the ratchet so the terminal is actually held in place. And then I put the wire through so I can see on the other side where the end of the wire is positioned, and then I crimp the wire. Well, that doesn't look too bad. So now I need to have a go in a slightly smaller opening of the jaws, so this will tidy up the connector at the other side. So this one is done. It's another 5 to go. Because during FOC tuning I will have to switch between different connections for the resolver. So what I'll need to do, I'll need to make a couple of interconnecting wires which will allow me to connect through my Ampseal connector here and into the resolver connections. I'm just gonna cut these off like this and just solder these wires into the end of my Ampseal connector wires. So now I need to connect the throttle pedal, and effectively the throttle pedal has 2 Hall sensors that will measure the angle of the positioning of the throttle pedal and provide acceleration data or alternatively regen data. So pin 1 is going to be 5 volts. Yeah, unfortunately I don't have a connector, so I'm gonna have to do with these wires, but I actually found the right connector on eBay and ordered it already. So pin 2 is ground. I'm connecting pin 2. Pin 3 is wiper 2. So I'm gonna use the green wire to connect wiper 2. Okay, so now we have all the connections are there. So now I need to connect the appropriate connectors to the Ampseal. Okay, so I'm gonna try to connect Ampseal connector now. I just want to zoom in and show you. You can see that Ampseal has this rubber membrane, and effectively when you put in the crimped connector, it sort of pierces through the rubber membrane, and effectively that provides isolation. The moisture will not gonna get inside the connector. Right, so I'm gonna start from the ground, because ground is connector number 11. Right, so I forgot to unlock the connector like this. Okay. So now with the connector unlocked, yep, so now the ground is in there. Right, so next one is pin 3, which is wiper 2. So wiper 2 is the regen, so I'm gonna go to pin 10. Okay, that's basically all the wires are in now. So that's a resolver, exciter, these two, and then these 4 wires are the other resolver wires, which we will need to determine during the tuning. Some of you might be wondering, why am I doing MG1 first? The reason is actually quite simple. I do not know how to remove the parking brake, which basically holding MG2. It's electronically driven brake, and so far I don't really know how to activate it. So I can of course physically remove it, but I think I want to try to see whether I can actually drive it electronically. Now the next step would be for me is to do the FOC tuning. So this is pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you really like the video. I will continue with my FOC tuning next, and hopefully we'll see you on the next video to show you how it worked out.